You won't believe the crazy ways some of these convicts survived their death row executions, starting with Wenceslao Moguel. Wenceslao Moguel, known as El Fusilado, the executed one, was sentenced to death during the Mexican Revolution. He was shot 9 times at a close range, but survived miraculously. He feigned death until his captors left. Although he was severely injured, he was revived and lived another 61 years. William Dool. At 17, William Dool was sentenced to death for a woman's murder despite questionable involvement. Hanged for 20 minutes, he miraculously survived as anatomists prepared him for dissection. A delirious fever during his execution likely induced suspended animation, saving his life. His story is an example of a second chance at life. Doyle Ham. Doyle Ham, a convicted murderer, survived a failed 2018 execution when medical staff couldn't find a vein for lethal injection after hours of attempts. Diagnosed with terminal cancer, the ordeal was deemed cruel, saving him from another execution. Instead of dying, he was kept in prison until he eventually died of cancer in 2021. Rommel Broom. Rommel Broom, a notorious criminal, survived a botched 2009 Ohio execution when officials failed to find a vein after 2 agonizing hours. Granted a temporary reprieve, his case fueled debates on execution ethics. Broom remained on death row for over a decade before dying of COVID-19 complications in 2020, evading a second execution attempt. Anne Green. In 1650, Anne Green, sentenced to death for infanticide, was hanged and presumed dead. Her body was given to physicians for dissection, but when her coffin was opened, she was discovered alive. After 14 hours of treatment, she fully recovered. Her miraculous survival was seen as divine intervention, and her prosecutor died 3 days later. Willie Francis. After being charged with murder, Willie Francis, a black 17-year-old, was sentenced to death by electrocution. He survived his first electric chair execution attempt in Louisiana. Screaming and writhing, he was informed that the state would try to execute him again. After a year, he was electrocuted again, and this time it was successful. John Babacom Lee. In 1885, John Lee, convicted of the murder of his employer, Emma Keyes, in Babacom, England, survived 3 failed hanging attempts. The trapdoor malfunctioned each time, prompting the British Home Secretary to commute his sentence to life imprisonment. After serving 22 years, Lee was released, and his extraordinary survival became a widely discussed story. Alireza M. Alireza M. was sentenced to death by hanging in Iran for drug-related crimes. During his execution, he miraculously survived. Against the Iranian law to be prosecuted again, he was released. Alireza's case became a rare example of someone surviving hanging, sparking discussions about Iran's strict execution laws. John Half-Hinged Smith. John Smith, sentenced to death by hanging in 1705, survived after being left hanging for 15 minutes. His friends intervened, and he was revived through traditional treatment. Nicknamed Half-Hanged Smith, he returned to his criminal ways but avoided execution multiple times. Eventually, he was transported to Virginia in 1727, disappearing thereafter. Zoleka Kadkoda. Zoleka Kadkoda was sentenced to death by stoning for adultery in Iran. During the execution, she was buried to her waist, and stoning began. However, she miraculously escaped death when a group of villagers came to her rescue and stopped the stoning. Eventually, her death sentence was lifted, granting her a second chance at life. Joseph Samuel. Joseph Samuel, sentenced to hang in 1803 for robbery and murder, survived 3 failed hanging attempts at Brickfield Hill. After the ropes repeatedly snapped, the crowd demanded a reprieve, which was granted by Governor King, citing divine intervention. Samuel was later sent to work in Newcastle, escaping in 1806, but was declared drowned. Jesse Taffero. Jesse Taffero's execution in Florida was botched when the electric chair malfunctioned, causing flames to erupt from his head. Despite the intended execution, Taffero survived the initial shock, leading to a second attempt, which eventually resulted in his death. His botched execution sparked debates on the humane method of execution by electric chair. Alva Campbell. Alva Campbell, a terminally ill Ohio death row inmate, survived a botched 2017 execution when prison staff was unable to locate a viable vein after multiple painful attempts. Witnessing his ordeal, the execution was called off and Governor Kasich granted a reprieve. He later died of natural causes in 2018.